I was talking last week to Cassie McCullough, who was doing this great Australian novel where you had to write in and pitch. Basically, ABC Radio Sydney was doing a competition where you had to pitch your own great Australian novel in 50 words or less. And Cassie McCullough was presiding over it, and she was talking about great novels that she loves. And I was confessing on the air to the fact that I don't like The Great Gatsby. I don't understand it. It's slight, it's short, it seems glib, it seems superficial, it seems fun but frivolous. I understand it's a nice big party. Yes, the 1920s. Who doesn't like the 1920s? Let's drink some mint juleps. Fantastic. But what's there? Where's the there? Then I'm listening to a podcast, and none other than the one and only Stephen Fry is asked what his favourite book is. And Stephen Fry, someone I revere and admire, says that his favourite book that he rereads every year because it's such a perfect book is The Great Gatsby. And I thought either I've misjudged Stephen Fry, ladies and gentlemen, or I've misjudged Josh Szeps, because one of us is wrong. What's the book that you're supposed to like that you just don't get? 1300 222 702 is the phone number. The text line 0467 922 702. Jon Page is with us from Dymocks. G'day, John.
Hi, Josh. How's it going?
I'm wonderful. I'm wrong. Are you going to tell me I'm wrong about The Great Gatsby, am I?
Oh, well, it's not one of my favourites, but I didn't hate it either. So, you're not wrong, but,
Okay. Are you going to fess up with a classic book that you don't like?
Yeah, my big confession would be Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I dropped out of advanced English during year 11 because I hated the book so much, and I didn't want anything to do with it, so I dropped out to do the level below English because I didn't like it. I didn't want to write essays about it.
Do you like any of those 19th century sort of manner English?
It put me off all of them. So I am not a big classics reader now at all, and I think that book just damaged me, and I almost stay away from the Penguin Black classics completely because I just don't. I just can't connect with them. I know. There's something I missed out on. I've seen things like the BBC miniseries of things like the Elizabeth Gaskell's North and South, and they're great stories, but I just can't pick up the books.
I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I don't think I've ever read a Jane Austen. That is Austen, right? Isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But Megan Ashfield writes on the text line, the book I don't get is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, a writing style that can only be described as high Victorian florid. It's a novel full of vile, violent and unappealing characters. I can't comprehend why Heathcliff is a romantic hero. If he came calling upon my daughter, I'd lock her in her room and set the dogs on him. That's Megan Ashfield. And yet, I read Wuthering Heights when I was probably 15. It was part of the English curriculum. And I actually loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Ooh. I still remember it being moving and powerful and passionate and crazy. So, some 19th century English novels can be okay. I
think a lot of it can be about timing. It's where you are in life when you read these books. I know a lot of people who loved A Catcher in the Rye when they were younger. They read it in their 30s and 40s, and they think it's just absolute drivel. And what were they ever thinking?
Interesting. It's my favourite book, and I haven't read it since I was a teenager. So maybe I shouldn't go back and read it.
I think leave it. I think it's one of those where you read Catcher in the Rye when you're a teenager and you love it, but then once you grow up, you can't connect with Holden anymore at all.
Oh, that's interesting. I remember it being so crystal clear in how honest and frank it was about authenticity and about freedom from BS. The other 19th century novel that I'm trying to read, and by trying I mean it sits on my nightstand by my bed and looks at me guiltily, is Middlemarch, which everyone says is
George Eliot,
a classic. Is that?
And it's so big as well.
So big, John. So long.
The sizes, this can be daunting, and it's just do you have time to read that? Yeah. Do you want to commit to it if you're not going to like it?
I don't know. Susie's given us a call. Let's take some calls. Hello, Susie.
Hello, how are you? I agree with you totally. I can't stand The Great Gatsby.
Oh, thank you, Susie. Yes.
No, I really can't. One of my dearest friends loves it. He reads it all the time, every year, but I can't stand it.
I want I want a Gatsby
it's the language.
lover.
I can't stand the way they speak to each other. I found it just so awfully, a certain type of American language which would just be jarred in my ear. I couldn't bear it.
Interesting.
I just couldn't bear it. Yeah.
For me, it wasn't the language. Yeah, go ahead, Susie.
And the other book I didn't like because of its style of writing was The Book Thief, which everyone thinks is wonderful, but I found the language was staccato, and it really irritated me as well.
Okay. I'm with you on that one too, Susie. I couldn't get into The Book Thief, and everyone loves it. It's here at Dymocks. It's one of our customers' favourite books of all time. We have a top 101, and it's the number one at the moment. And I'm just like, that wasn't for me, that one.
No, not me either. No, I must admit I didn't really persevere with it because a few pages in, I just thought I can't bear this language. It really irritates me. I've got a funny ear for certain language.
You clearly care a lot about the language, Susie. I care more about the plot. I just don't understand The Great Gatsby. There are some people, and then some things happen, and then that's it. I don't know what the point. I don't know what I'm supposed to make of this.
I know.
Susie,
I saw the movie. Yeah, but never mind.
Good to talk.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Thank you, Susie. Great to talk to you. Brett has given us a call about a book, Brett, that I actually just bought at a second-hand bookstore, and you're going to ruin this for me, Brett.
Yeah, well, I might. I don't know. I'm with you as with The Great Gatsby. I put that down after just a few pages. It's still sitting on my shelf. But Breakfast at Tiffany's, the book and the movie, what a load of garbage.
Okay. John, do you have an opinion? Have you read it?
No, I haven't read it. I have seen the movie. It's not my favourite film, but I know the book is supposed to be quite different because they've obviously toned the movie down quite a bit, but I haven't read the book.
All right, Brett. Well, now you've just postponed by another few months the date at which I will inevitably pick it up and
do yourself a favour.
Put it back on the shelf.
Do yourself a favour and read some Steinbeck.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I love him.
Actually, Of Mice and Men is another one that looks at me guiltily from the bookshelf, making me feel like I should read it. Thank you, Brett. Another person has written in saying Breakfast at Tiffany's as well. It could have been a Year 7 student essay, this person writes on the text line. Thank you so much for all of your texts. Claire writes, Anna Karenina, I just can't. I hated Anna, couldn't wait for the train. Well, I mean, once you start going up to like Dostoevsky, then you're in muddy waters, aren't you, John? Yeah,
the Russian ones. You've got your War and Peace. You're in some territory there that is going to kind of bog you down, and you can get stuck. I think a part of this, I'd like to know. I mean, The Great Gatsby is a shorter book, so that's an odd one. But sometimes it is those bigger books. I was speaking to people here at the shop, and people didn't like Lord of the Rings because they could never get into it. And I was a little bit the same, but I ended up finding a 6-volume edition, and that made it a lot easier to get through a big tome. But the other one I really didn't like that everyone loved, and they've loved it for years, and there were bags and T-shirts, was A Little Life.
I don't even know A Little Life.
It was by, I can't pronounce her name without seeing it in front of me, but this was a book kind of set in New York about 4 young people growing up, and I just didn't like any of them. I was just like, and they were whinging about, where to live and how to get a loft to do their art in, and I just wanted to just shake them and go, what are you doing? And it was like 800 pages, and I just didn't have the tolerance to go past 100 pages.
I've got lots and lots of this is not a scientific survey, so I don't want any novelists listening to get upset. But I've got quite a few people saying that they feel pressured to like Tim Winton and Cloud Street in particular, but they found it boring. I've got more than a dozen texts like that. Is there a consensus on Winton at Dymocks, John?
Yeah, well, I mean, Cloud Street is held up there as his one, and I didn't like Cloud Street either, and I haven't liked, I think, Eerie by him as well, but then I have loved others. Like, I love Breath. I thought Breath was wonderful. The Shepherd's Hut I really enjoyed. So I think it's just, he's one of those writers, though, that just writes a different book, so he's not always going to connect with you. But Cloud Street does get put on that pedestal, though, as one of the great Australian novels, and you do then feel that kind of weight of culture that you have to like it as well, and I didn't like it.
When I saw Cloud Street, I momentarily thought that a listener was referring to Cloud Atlas, which is David Mitchell's book. David is wonderful, and I've loved every book that I've read of David Mitchell's.
Oh, yes. We will not talk ill of David Mitchell, and he's got a new book out at the moment too, Josh.
Utopia
Avenue, which is fabulous. Set in 1967 Soho, and it's about a rock band that are formed together, and you kind of follow them on their rise up the charts. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Yes, everything. I mean, if you haven't read Cloud Atlas, then you have to give it a shot. It's a little bit jarring because it's a bunch of different chapters written in different styles, but the moment you get into it, it's absolutely brilliant. And the other person who doesn't write a lot, but who I always love, is Franson, is the American writer Jonathan Franson.
Yep, Corrections and Freedom.
Yes. All terrific books. Chris has given us a call. We're talking about great classic books that actually are no good, or that you feel guilty for not liking. Chris, what's yours?
Hi, Josh. It's The Thornbirds.
Yeah, right. Colleen McCullough.
Yeah, I read chapter 1 and threw it in a corner and went, okay, you've got to give this a proper go because everyone loves it. So I read chapter 2 and I was feeling actually like burning the thing.
Don't burn a book.
But some years later, I was doing a communications course, and the lecturer happened to mention that Colleen McCulloch wrote each page of that 10 times or something. And I mumbled, well, it's a pity she didn't get any of them right. And then I found out that he was a close friend of hers. And so it was kind of embarrassing.
Oh, I love it, Chris. Thank you for that. Okay, 1 vote for Thornbirds. Kim's given us a call. G'day, Kim.
Hi.
What book do you feel guilty about not liking?
Well, I did a literature and language course at university as part of a degree, and for 2 years, the 2 years part of this thing, they gave us basically a classic a week to read, and I waded my way all the way through all of them until we got to James Joyce's Ulysses. I read the first chapter, read the last chapter, bought the Cliff Notes, and faked my way through an essay.
Yeah. I mean,
only time in my entire university career I did that, and I don't regret it for a moment.
No one has ever accused Joyce of being an easily accessible writer.
Oh, it was like they gave us 2 whole weeks for it because they said this is going to be one of the more difficult texts, and I just sat there through the first chapter and went, I need a year just for this chapter. I just couldn't.
Thank you, Kim.
I tried, failed.
Yeah. All right, Kim, thank you. So Ulysses, so apparently James Joyce, not the greatest novelist of the 20th century after all, John. We're talking about books that you feel guilty for not liking, classic books that are actually no good. Peter in Randwick writes on the text line, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, absolute crap, he writes. I loved Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, but again, I read it when I was about 14, and so maybe there's a period in your life where you're up for a good philosophical novel. Yeah,
or when you, especially that kind of 14 to 18, where you're kind of trying to find yourself, you're trying to be a bit of a rebel too sometimes, and you can gravitate towards, there's those books that just kind of suck you in and kind of give you that confirmation that you can be a rebel too like these people. You can go on these great epic travels and you can do all this thing, and then, you get older and you hit your 30s and you're like, yeah, no, none of that is ever going to happen.
Yeah, all the people who are complaining about Catcher in the Rye also are saying, I don't get what the big deal is with Catcher in the Rye. Why do you like it? I read it when I was 40 and I didn't get it at all. I'm like, that's because you're one of the phonies who Holden was talking about. That's the problem. Zach's given us a call. Hello, Zach.
Hi, thanks for taking the call. It's going to be a bit of a Great Gatsby pylon here,
okay, good.
To say.
Excellent.
Indeed, for me, it's a non-story, and nothing happens, and I've got 2 questions in particular, one that even my wife asked me and I can't answer. Why was he great? What was so great about the Great Gatsby?
Well, I don't think that's my problem with the book, but I take your point. I mean, isn't the point that everyone thought he was great? Isn't
totally,
the great ironic?
I accept that, but why?
Okay, we're not going to get into literature class, but Zach, thank you for airing a visceral frustration against that book. Tarima's given us a call. G'day, Tarima.
Hello?
Oh, sorry, Tajma. Sorry, that's my misreading. G'day, Tajma.
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. What's your
well, the one
least
that
favourite book?
first sprang to mind when you raised the question was To Kill a Mockingbird. I can't remember the details because it was a while ago that I tried reading it. I couldn't get past the first couple of pages. I don't know, it just didn't gel with me. Okay. Something about it, I couldn't do it.
Okay, I think you've probably just made a lot of enemies. Is that right, John?
Yeah, no, I love that book, and I reread it before the prequel sequel that came out a few years ago, and it still stood up so strongly for me. I think it's a great book, that one. But we each our own. We do have different tastes, and different books appeal to us in different ways. But I would urge you to try and read a little bit further into that one because it is very good. Yes,
it's excellent. Barb writes, hey Josh, I'm 68 and I can't stand The Great Gatsby. This is just refreshing a little bit too quickly. Tim Winton I can't get into either. Wazza writes, Harry Potter, I just don't get it. Well, again, you're probably not the right age, Wazza. And Kath writes, once I start a book, I have to finish it. It was so difficult to finish Catcher in the Rye. I truly dislike that book. I was in my 40s. Maybe I should have read it earlier. Yes, I think that's it. What about Richard Flanagan's Long Hard Road, Frank writes. I needed to read twice with a dictionary and a thesaurus. Difficult.
Was it The Narrow Road to the Deep North? Was that the one?
Is that the one?
I think that might be the one he's referring to, but that was a wonderful... I love that book. I thought that was amazing.
Elliot writes, I tried to read Shantaram, tried really hard, barely made it a few chapters in. Self-Indulgence.
That one is a
rubbish.
tough one.
Okay, good to know.
I eventually got through that. I think because it's like another, it's again one of those tomes. It's about 1,000 pages. It's broken up into 5 parts. And again, I found like reading one part and then going and reading something else and then coming back to the second part because it was just too much. Because it's one of these kind of philosophical books as well, where there's so many ideas chucked into the story that it just becomes too heavy, I think. But if you spread it out a bit more, there's a little, you can get into it a little easier.
Too hard. Shouldn't be that hard to read. It should be enjoyable.
Now, you heard the bad news about Gatsby, though, Josh. You're about to be more. There's going to be more Great Gatsby coming your way.
Really? Why? They're making another movie?
Well, the copyright just expired in the US, so it's now no longer under copyright, and anyone can write and publish their own Great Gatsby novel. And there's a prequel. Nick's prequel is already on its way.
It's not gonna make me read it, John. It's not gonna make me read it. Lastly,
there's an argument of maybe looking at extending copyrights so that we don't have to put up with all the knockoffs.
John, great to talk to you. Thanks for filling us in, and thanks for being here and making me feel a little bit better about myself. That's Jon Page from Dymocks, making me feel okay about not liking F. Scott Fitzgerald.